I went looking for Landa to tell him what I had learned from Conchi: the oral history, the matrilineal chain, the acoustics of containment. I needed to talk to someone who thought the way I did, in data, in hypotheses, in structures. Someone who would not look at me with the eyes of a keeper or of a village that guards secrets. Landa was not in his flat. The door was ajar. I knocked. Nothing. I went in. His computer was on. The screen showed an open document. I did not mean to read it, but the title occupied the entire top line in large letters, and my eyes processed it before my ethics could intervene. A hot sack completer. I sat down at the computer. My hands were trembling. I scrolled. It was the sequence. The entire sequence. All 3 parts Conch's, Miren's, ain'ts meticulously transcribed in a notation system that combined the symbols of the 1610 Inquisitor, Miren's symbols, and Landa's own phonetic annotations. Each phoneme had its fundamental frequency indicated in hertz. Each phrase had annotations for rhythm and breathing. It was a complete manual for pronouncing the Ahotsak. I scrolled further. There were notes in the margins. Source: Logrono transcription, original, partial, tilde 30% of the sequence. Source: Recordings AG. Informal conversations, 2021 to 2024, tilde 15% additional. Source: Notebook MA. Photographed December 2023, tilde 25% additional. Source: Nocturnal Recordings AE. Copied from her equipment, October 2026, tilde 20% additional. Source: Response of the presence, inferred by acoustic mirroring, tilde 10% remaining. 5 sources. 5 years of work. And the last my nocturnal recordings dated 3 weeks earlier. Copied from my equipment. Without my permission. Landa had not been helping me. I had been helping him. Every conversation, every piece of data I had shared, every spectrogram I had shown him, all of it had fed this document. Landa had pieced together fragments of the Inquisitor's transcription with what Ain had let him overhear in casual conversations, with photographs of Miren's notebook taken in secret, with my nocturnal recordings copied while I slept. And now he had the complete sequence. Written down. Ready to be read aloud. I closed the document. I stood up. I left the flat. And I went straight to find Conchi. I found Landa before I reached the farmhouse. He was on the path, as though waiting for me. Perhaps he had seen me enter his flat from the window. Perhaps he simply knew this moment would come. "You've seen the file," he said. It was not a question. "You copied my recordings. You photographed Miren's notebook. You've been manipulating Ain for years. I've reconstructed the greatest linguistic discovery in human history," he said, and his voice held no guilt and no apology. It held pride. A pre-human language. A system of communication with a geological consciousness. Evidence that intelligence did not begin with us. And you want it to be lost because 3 old women say it's dangerous? Ain is dead, Landa. Ain died because she spoke alone. Because the system is fragile. Because it depends on 3 human voices in a village that's depopulating. If the language is properly documented, if its acoustics are understood, it can be reproduced mechanically. 3 speakers with the correct frequencies. Automated maintenance. No need for keepers. The idea was brilliant. And it was monstrous. Reducing 400 years of human guardianship to a frequency cancellation algorithm. It doesn't work that way, I said. The presence doesn't respond to mechanical frequencies. It responds to voices. To blood. Conchi explained this to me. Conchi told you the mythic version. The functional version is pure acoustics. The keepers aren't magical. They're instruments. They produce specific frequencies that interfere with the presence's vibrations. Any sound source with the same acoustic signature would produce the same effect. You're not sure of that? No. But I'm not sure of the opposite either. And there's a way to find out. I looked at him. I understood what he was proposing before he said it. You want to read the sequence aloud, I said. You want to activate it to see what happens. I want to wake the presence. Partially. Enough to establish communication. To understand what it is. To publish. To be the man who spoke to the earth. Lander did not reply, but his eyes did. They shone with the light of obsession, the same light I had seen in my own eyes when I analyzed the spectrogram for the first time. The difference between Lander and me was not one of nature. It was one of degree. He had not learned what I had learned from Ain't's death. That understanding is a door. And not all doors should be opened. The understanding of certain things is the door through which they enter, I quoted. Salazar Frias, 1610. Salazar was a 17th century inquisitor, Lander said. We are 21st century scientists. I turned and walked toward Concha's farmhouse. Lander called after me. Amaya, I am not going to let this die in a village of 200 people. I won't allow it. I did not turn around. I told Conchi everything. The file. The sources. Lander's intention. Conchi listened in silence, hands on her knees, nodding faintly as though each revelation confirmed something she already knew. Inaki brought him, she said when I finished. 5 years ago. He was worried because we were growing old. He thought an ethnographer could document the traditions without understanding what they were about. Inaki is a good man, but good men are sometimes the most dangerous. What do we do? The Akala, the complete recitation. Now, before Lander does something irreparable. There are 2 of us. The sequence needs 3. It will be you, me, and Miren. Miren knows her part. I know mine. You. She looked at me. You carry Ain't's part. The 3rd part. You haven't learned it, but the blood knows it. Maria de Zimmeldegi sang the 3rd part. Your vocal cords will find it. When? All Hallows Eve. 6 days from now. That is when the barrier between the surface and what lies below is thinnest. That is when the maintenance works best. That is when it has always been done. 6 days. 6 days to learn the 3rd part of a sequence in a pre-human language that is supposed to require years of oral transmission. That's not enough time, I said. No, Conchi said. But it is what we have. The 6 days were the most intense of my life. Conchi taught me in the mornings, Miren in the afternoons. The 2 together at dusk, the 3 of us sitting on the kitchen floor, singing fragments of the sequence in half voices, never the complete sequence, never all 3 parts together, because to do so outside Beroscabero would be like setting off a flare to show the presence exactly where we were. I learned fast. Insultingly fast. My mouth formed the phonemes before my ear registered them. My diaphragm found the right pressures the way one remembers a childhood song. The 3rd part of the sequence, Ain't's part, the part belonging to the line of Maria de Zimmeldegi, flowed from me as though it had been stored somewhere in my body, waiting to be summoned. Meanwhile, the village trembled. Not metaphorically. Literally. Small quakes magnitude 1 or 2, imperceptible to anyone not paying attention, that the seismographs of the Navarra seismic network registered as anomalous activity in a zone with no known active faults. Geologists in Pamplona issued a reassuring communiqué. Normal microseismic activity. A lie. It was not normal. Nothing in Zugarramurdi had been normal since Ain went to Beroscabero alone. The villagers noticed the cracks. New fissures in the stone walls. Well water coming up warm in October. In the Pyrenees, groundwater should be at 6 degrees. It came up at 15. Dogs barked at night, staring at the ground. Cattle refused to go to pasture. Jones told me one of his ewes had delivered a stillborn lamb. It was not the season, she should not have lambed at all. Something was rising. On the eve of All Saints, I went to fetch Miren for the final rehearsal. She was not at home. The door was open. The books were as always. But the notebook, the blue notebook with 20 years of transcriptions, was gone. And in its place, on the table, there was a note. His right. It cannot die. I ran to Lander's flat. Also empty. His computer was still on. The file had been sent to a printer. The village printer, the one at the town hall, the only one in Zugarramurdi. I went to the town hall. The door had been forced. On the secretary's desk, a stack of 40 freshly printed pages. The complete sequence. Transcribed, annotated, ready to be read aloud. But not all 40 pages. They were missing. Lander had taken them. Miren had gone with him. And with her, her notebook. The pieces Lander had been missing, the fragments only Miren knew. The part of the sequence that belonged to the second voice were now in the hands of a man who wanted to wake what had been sleeping for millennia. I ran back to Conch's farmhouse. I found her at the door, staring at the mountain. I did not need to tell her anything. She knew. Tomorrow night, she said. At Beroscobero. Whether they come or not. Whether we go as 2 or as 3. Tomorrow night the sequence is recited. Because if we don't recite it, he will. And what he pronounces will not be containment. I nodded. I looked at the mountain. In the darkness, if you paid attention, and I could no longer not pay attention, the ground vibrated. A constant pulse. Stronger than the week before. More urgent. Almost. Tomorrow.